And hello everyone, and welcome to Red Puts Art in Your Face. I know it's been a while, not quite as long as the last break, but it's been a while because I haven't really been like on the top of my game here. the the last few days. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I'm not sick or anything really. So I don't think so. It's not like anyway. uh, so today we're gonna be working on a actual kind of a redraw, but not really, of a really old project of mine that I started way back when I was going to community college when I was like 19. And then, yeah, hi. And then I did it again as a project when I first got to art school and I tried to be an illustrator. You know, back before I changed my major to writing. So, bit of a pet project. I'd mostly put it on the back burner and kind of forgotten about it. But, while I was going through my stuff for things I needed to archive and then recycle, I came across quite a bit dedicated to the project, and I was like, you know, I should work on that again. So that's what we're doing today. Okay, ready? Here we go. And the good news is window capture happens to work on Fire Alpaca, which is nice because it does not work on Manga Studio. Most unfortunately. It just doesn't like Manga Studio for some reason. Alright, so this is the main character of the project, Prince Crest, Ellen Talvidair. And the project went through like several name changes just because it was kind of a weird idea I had that I just thought was kind of neat at the time. And it was this idea that what if there was this like average peasant girl who found a genie in a lamp, and what would she wish for? And the idea was that she would wish to be a prince. Why? Because princes get to do all the fun things in fairy tales. And the logic was basically like, well, knights are bound to somebody. Kings and queens don't get to do anything because they're stuck on their thrones all the time. And queens kind of have to adhere to their husbands because most of the time queens are married, unless you're Queen Elizabeth or Victoria. Well, no, Victoria was married. Anyway, and so that was right out. And then princesses are always getting saved. They don't ever get to go out and do the saving or any of the fun stuff. So she, you know, this peasant girl kind of wishes to be a prince instead. And it's about her adventures after she finds the genie lamp and makes her wish to be a prince. And it became kind of a trans story, basically, just by accident. Although I really think that was probably for the better. Because you know, it's weird how you look back on your stuff and you're like, you know, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I never really showed signs of being a part of the trans community, and then I'll look back on some of my older stuff and I'm like, holy crap, I guess I did. You know, I just didn't, you know, I just never recognized it at the time. So it's weird how you go back and you look at some of your stuff and you're like, you know what, there were a lot more signs than I actually thought there were, because this was years and years before I ever identified that I had that I had some gender dysphoria going on. So, but it's weird how like, as an artist, your art tends to, like, reflect how you feel far more than you actually understand. So it was really interesting to go back and to see that, and I wanted to work on that because, you know, having found that and thinking, yeah, you know what, that's really actually how I am now. It was kind of cool, and I felt like maybe this is something I can work on again, or at least hopefully sometime in the future. Maybe when I get more time. And that is my dog in the background, barking his head off. At least he's outside. And if you're wondering what that other sound in the background is, that's probably the dishwasher. I had to run that today. So just getting some chores done while also doing something fun for everybody. Sorry about that pause. I was checking to make sure that I had the Tumblr post up, and I did not, so I had to post that real quick. I think some of the references for crest design came from Fire Emblem, because I was really just obsessed with that game at the time. Probably because like one of the earlier Fire Emblems released for the Game Boy Advance was basically the only game I really had to play for a while that wasn't Pokemon, because or wasn't some N64 game that I didn't have a memory pack to save on, because I didn't have a memory pack. My sister, who gave me the N64, didn't she didn't have a memory pack, so basically all of my saves, if the game required like a memory pack to save, I was just screwed. So, you know, I think at the time I was kind of obsessed with it because it was this really fun game that I could play that was kind of both strategy and so it was both strategy, but it was also a kind of an RPG, because it was like the one with Ellawood and Hector and Lynn, and you were the strategist, and so I really enjoyed it because it was like, oh, so I'm a part of the game too, while also, you know, trying to protect all of these like people who are also part of the game. And it was fun, and I had a really fun time seeing the different like conversations that you could have when you put people together. And it always like really influenced my strategy, because it's like, wait, but I really want to see these two get together, so I have to put them in this one, and then I have to get this character, so I have to have this guy. And so it would be like this never-ending stream of, okay, how can I make a winning strategy, but also get all of my people to hook up? So I always liked Ellawood, probably because looking back, I probably identified with him because he was this red-eyed, blue-eyed character that wielded a rapier, and I actually own a rapier, and I'm not sure if that was because of Ellerwood or if that was something that came after him or what, but I think it was because, you know, Ellerwood kind of looked like me, and, you know, was kind of this, like, sort of soft-spoken character. Plus, he marries, like, a girl that can turn into a dragon, and my brain was just like, no, that's something I would totally do. I would totally marry a dragon girl. So, you know, there is also that. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of really identify with Ellerwood. So I think I really took heavily from that when I was originally designing Crest. So I actually, when I was doing the redraw, I actually went back and used Ellerwood and Roy for some design ideas as far as Crest's outfit is concerned. Although this is one of the rare occasions where I'm like, I am not going to give the redhead green or blue eyes. I'm going to make them gray. Why? I don't know, just because. So it's one of those very rare occasions where my redhead character does not actively have blue eyes. Because I have done that quite a bit in my comics, where I'm just, or in characters I've created that are supposed to be a little bit more representative of myself. I tend to go, nah, might as well just, like, hit the nail on the head. They're gonna have red hair and blue eyes and just be straight up me. And I think I was trying to break away from that at the time when I created Crest, so good to know I was kind of weaning myself off of that habit. And I've gotten, I want to say, better at it. Most of my characters now, I don't actually actively try to make them like myself or as far away from myself as possible. I've just tried to make them how I feel they would be. You know, I try to follow the example more of Peter S. Beagle than anything else now. Who, you know, when I actually met him at a screening of The Last Unicorn, which is great. It's a great movie. Everyone should go see it. And Jesus, cat. Good God, what bug crawled up your butt? Yeah? Okay. You just be weird then. Oh, good Lord. All right. You're making it so hard to concentrate. She just keeps running everywhere. Where was that? I can't even remember. Okay. Anyways, so Peter S. Beagle, I met him at a screening of The Last Unicorn, which is great. Everyone should go see it. Anyway. And there was the questionnaire, and we got to ask him questions, and I asked him, like, a lot of writing questions, because, you know, as a writer, I kind of, like, really like hearing from other writers, like hearing their perspective, and like hearing, like, you know, how is it, you know, basically how to be a better writer myself. And one of the things that he kept saying was, well, that's just how it came out, or that's just, you know, how it felt. And I've actually tried to follow that example since I had that talk with him, and it actually has vastly improved my characterization. I'm no longer actively trying to like plot stuff out so rigidly anymore. It's more of a, you know, if it happens, it happens, and if that doesn't suit the character, then it doesn't suit the character. I'm not gonna force myself to try and do something just because I feel like that would be more right, or because it feels more like something I would do. And I feel like it's really helped me. I know that since I had that talk with him, I've created some of my, well, some of the characters I enjoy the most, at the very least. Chainmail is the hardest thing, I swear to God. And I hate, like, I like doing it when I'm just doing the initial sketch, but going into the line art sucks. Because, like, I'm trying to create all these nice, neat lines, and then you go in to do the chainmail, and you're like, wait, where are my lines? Where's the guideline? What am I doing? How many of these stupid little circles am I gonna, or half circles am I gonna have to do? Chainmail sucks to draw, you guys. It does. It's just, like, I enjoy it, but I also hate it. It's a love-hate thing. Because I do love the way chainmail looks, and I'm just putting this out there. Chainmail is a lot heavier than it looks. Like, I've always thought in my head that chainmail was so light and easy to wear. And then one year I was helping out a friend who worked at, or who volunteered at this kind of like hippie shop that also does costuming for Renaissance fairs. And he had this suit of chainmail that he wore when he did this. And I was supposed to help him get into it, and holy crap, that thing was heavy. I could hardly lift it. It was so heavy, and I'm like, I'm no slouch. I am actively a lot stronger than I look, and this was some heavy crap, man. This was fairly heavy. I was very surprised, and I was like, I always thought chainmail was a lot lighter than it was. I can see why it made such effective armor, because it is not at all as light as you would think. Which makes me just think about The Hobbit, because you're like, wait, they talk about how light it is, but what if it's not really all that light? What if it's just light in comparison to, like, plate mail or something? And then you're just like, I bet that it's a lot heavier to wear than it seems. Because every time I see that, like, suit of mithril chainmail that Bilbo and Frodo wear, I'm just like, it looks so pretty and light. I bet it feels so nice to wear. And then I'm like, wait, no, chainmail is heavy. So what, like, is it really light, or is it heavy as crap?
It's 12 hours.
Yes, thank you, computer. I want to know. These are important questions. Important things I ask. How heavy is chainmail? Even when it's something like mithril. How heavy? But I figured, as a prince is fairly well active in going out there and fighting stuff, Crest should have more armor on. So I decided to give him a little more protection this time around, because it went, in my initial drawings of him, he's wearing like absolutely no armor, and I was like, no, he's fighting. He should have something. The poor thing is gonna get himself killed. I've grown more realistic in the years since the original design. I'm like, no, that guy needs to be wearing something. But he's still royalty, so it still needs to like, it still needs to look pretty. Because you know those royals, they always gotta look the best in the room. So did my best to try and capture that. Oh, hell. I just realized this right here is going to have to be chainmail, which means link, 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 link. Oh, chainmail, why? And then this is going to make it hard to color later. Chainmail sucks, you guys. I can see why people don't draw a lot of it for armor. Because it's hard. It's the same as fish scales. Like, fish scales, to be honest, are like such an utter bitch to do. It's why I just use a pattern, because I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not drawing in the middle of these million of these little freaking circles for a fish. And I am not like Edna Mole. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, cloaks and capes and stuff. Mostly just in fantasy stuff, but like also a bit for my hero, for superheroes when I'm designing them. I'm like, no, capes are okay. Like, I feel like they have to be the right sort of capes. Like, but at the same point in time, like, every time I design my characters, it's like less cape and more like super drapey cloak or like or jacket or something, rather than an actual cape. And I'm like, how did this happen? I wanted to design a character with a cape, but I wound up instead with a military style jacket. Again, why does this keep happening? The answer is because I like military style clothes. I really do. I don't know what it is. I like the way that, like, they fold over. I like the way that they drape down the back and pinch in at the waist. I really like the style of military jackets. I don't know what it is. And I'm not talking like modern military jackets, although those are fairly cool too. No, but I mean like formal too. Like, not informal jackets, although those are kind of cool looking. It's more like old-fashioned military coats, where you get that long drape down the back. Maybe that's more maybe that's more Navy. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying military style coat, and I feel like in actuality it's not a military coat at all. Can you tell I took a history of fashion class? Because my history of fashion class was hard. And I got very mad at the teacher a lot, because the teacher's like, because I didn't know like we would have to be creating our own designs for the class. I thought it was just, here, we're gonna learn the history of fashion. I was like, yay, because I don't know anything about fashion, and I would like to accurately represent it when I like draw and or write about it. And then it became, so this is how this designer was inspired by this, and I'm like, no. And then she's like, and we're gonna be creating our own designs based off of whatever like part of the history we're on. And I'm like, no. Because I'm so very much implanted in that space of, I want to be comfortable and I want clothing to be comfortable, but also I want it to look nice. So apparently that is not what my teacher was after, because every single time it was like, well, this has already been done by this designer, or it's not ostentatious enough, or it's not fashion forward enough. And I'm like, I thought this was a history of fashion class. What am I, like, I don't know fashion. That's why I took this class. There was only one other non-fashion major in the class, and he and I were both like, this feels kind of really biased. Why are we the only ones not getting A's? Everyone told us this was gonna be an easy history class, and this school requires so many history credits. For real, I actually got a B and it ruined my GPA, so I had to like go back and take a different class because I was like, I needed a 4.0 to get into the specific major, and I'm like, this is some bullshit that I didn't get in goddamn A in this class. I worked my butt off. Both of my parents are history teachers. I should not be getting a freaking B. I was very mad. That was a class that made me very angry. I still have all the books for that class too, because I'm like, every time I look at them, I'm like, I should not have gotten a B. Oh, hey! Well, stainless steel chainmail armor can weigh up to 7 kilos. Damn, that's heavy. Also, hello! I don't think I am familiar with you. So it's nice to see you. Hello. Welcome to the stream. I'm very glad to see you. Yeah. Chainmail is fairly heavy. There we go. So the rapier is actually heavily based on the one that I actually own, which is an antique Gustave rapier that I bought at a sword shop that we have in my local mall. And it's a beautiful sword, and I absolutely loved it, and I've used its design for, oh god, for a lot of things actually. Just because I think it looks so beautiful and so well crafted, and you know, I love the way that a lot of rapiers look. I also like claymores though, but I think that's more my like Viking / Scottish heritage saying that. Which is so funny because like the claymore is most famously known from the movie Braveheart, but Braveheart was so historically inaccurate as a movie because like, well, except for the part where Robert the Bruce is kind of a dick, because Robert the Bruce was kind of a dick. I mean, he freed Scotland for the Scots, but like, whatever, he was kind of a dick. Yes, Kitty. Don't get me wrong, I respect Robert the Bruce as a very influential historical figure, but he was kind of a dick who really just wanted to be king. I am just in disguise. Oh, crowgasm. I still laugh at the fact that Marius is not. Oh, it's like okay with Clavius being like 20 years old. Like, okay, so Marius has no problem. Marius being one of my OC Turians. Marius actually has no problem with guys who are older than him. He just has a huge problem with it becoming like daddy kind of stuff, and it's not just because of the cringe factor, although that is there. And I mean, for me, I've never really had that cringe factor because I didn't grow up with a dad, so like I really don't have any I don't have any real associations with the term that aren't like some kind of like weird like you know, semi-sexual thing, because like even when like you have daughters who refer to their dads as daddy, for some reason like my brain is like no. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. That's your dad, that's your father. Like, that's where my brain goes with it. I'm like, you shouldn't call him that. Anyway, but, so I don't really have any bad connotations with age play or with people calling their significant other daddy. I know other people do, but, like, that's just not something I have a problem with. But my character Marius does, specifically because of his background and his history, because I made it kind of like as dramatic as possible. So because his abuser was really into that and like forced Marius to call him that, he has some real negative associations with it. So that's why he's like, nope, you call me that and we're done. Or, I'm not calling you that. If you force me to, we're done. So, like, for Marius, it's a big no. For other characters on the crew, they're totally fine with it. I know Quirrell thinks it's kind of weird, but is totally fine doing it. Forel is not. But that's because Forel is really against anybody trying to pretend they're an authority figure over him in the bedroom. Because, yeah, he's just not okay with it. Quirrell is like, yeah, I don't care. But Forel, his twin, is like, yeah, no, don't do it. Don't do it, or I will legit punch you in the face. Ilias, I know, has no problem with it. He actually really likes the idea. Atreus has no problem with it really, but that's more or less because he when he does it, he only really likes doing it in a situation where he gets to call someone else mommy or somebody else daddy. Like, for him, it's less an age play thing and more like just being a parent. Like, for him, it's like, it's not something like sexual, it's more like his significant other who is also a parent referring to him as a parent, which he likes because he is a really big family type. He really loves, he really loved being a dad, and like anybody else who gets with him, you know, they have to keep in mind he's gonna want kids. That's something that Atreus just like needs. He needs to have children. He grew up with lots of children. He is from a family that has lots of kids. He needs to have kids. That's just like a part of his ship. There's like certain things that just happen for my Turian RP characters on Tumblr. Like, for real, some of them are just like, no. Like, this is something that has to be, I say Turians, but really like all the Mass Effect aliens. So it's like, a lot of them are like, no, this is literally just how I am, and if you don't accept it, then we're kind of done. So it's like, you know, that make or break moment in a BioWare romance, which they used to have, and I think a couple of them still do, but not like, it's not really a thing anymore the way it used to be, like in Dragon Age, which was my first BioWare RPG, believe it or not, was Dragon Age Origins. His daughter Celia actually calls him father or dad. If Ileus calls Arius daddy, he gets punched in the face. Just let him walk past a woman and they get pregnant, right? Atreus for real is just like, it's basically the whole Imperius clan. I once made a joke that, like, the Imperius clan alone could repopulate the entire Turian population by themselves with no other Turians around, even if it was just the guys. Just because they're a very fertile bunch. And they also just, like, they're all just very big family types. Like, even Atreus' sisters are very big into having a family. The only one who isn't is the black sheep, and even she has kids. She's not all that into it, but she has kids. She just kind of lets the dads take care of them instead of taking care of them herself, because she's, you know, basically trying to be the biggest problem for her family as possible. And it's not like the Imperius family doesn't love her, because they do. They love every single one of the cousins and the brothers and sisters in their family. They're a very loving family. It's just like they also have these dynamics where it's like, wow, this guy really gets on my nerves, or yeah, that's my big brother, he's kind of a dick. So it's kind of yes, hi kitty. It's kind of that situation going on. Like, I always feel like the Imperius family, I kind of base them off of, you know, the side of the family that I was around the most when I was growing up. Haral could probably be a thread to having many kids if he would sleep with Turians. He slept with half of the Citadel. Because, what was I saying? So I kind of based the Imperius clan off of the side of the family that I was around the most when I was a kid. Because it's not like I didn't spend a lot of time around my mom's side of the family. It's just like one half of it was off in New York and the other half was off in Northern California. My dad's side of the family actively lived like within 5 miles of me. So I spent a lot of time with them growing up. And, you know, it was a fairly large family, and I never thought about that until, like, I ran into people who just didn't do that or had very small families. You know, because, like, growing up, my cousin Cassandra was kind of more of a sister to me than my actual sister was, just because, you know, she lived closer and she was there to babysit me and spend time with me in a way that my half sister wasn't, because my half sister lived in Philadelphia. So, and it's not like I didn't go visit my half sister and have sisterly time with her. I did. It was just, you know, Cassandra was closer. I spent more time with her. So I kind of based them off of that dynamic I had when I was growing up, where, like, we had a lot of family events where it would be the whole of the Grafstrom clan, and that's what literally we called ourselves, the Grafstrom clan, getting together just basically to hang out, or you know, my mom often let my cousins, you know, babysit me or look after me. So I spent a lot of my time as a kid with my dad's side of the family looking after me, and which I love. You know, I never felt very lonely, and I always felt very loved, and I never really understood that I was supposed to feel sad that my dad was dead, because, you know, growing up, all I heard was stories about was stories about him. So, I spent so much time with that side of the family. It was fairly large. I mean, I had at least 5 cousins that were all older than me and looked after me. And then I had 3 more, and then I had like 4 more cousins on my mom's side that I was fairly close to growing up. That then quickly became 6 cousins. So it's like I had this fairly large extended family that I spent a lot of time with, and I think I based that for Atreus's character. I mean, his connections are a little more direct. I mean, he has all of his brothers and sisters, which at least 8 of them are older than he is. But, I wanted to create this kind of, like, large family ideal, and, kind of this, kind of, like, Southern living kind of style, large family that just looks after one another and is very open and accepting. Because that's a lot of the ways that my childhood was, and I kind of, sometimes I wish I couldn't kind of go back to that, because we've kind of like grown apart the older I get, which kind of sucks, but I mean, that's just a part of growing up. So I just remember Ilias breaking into Arius' sleeping quarters via the vents and yeah, Ilias does that. Ilias likes to break into places because Ilias doesn't really have a sense of personal space or personal property. He doesn't really understand, in discussing hand arch. Yeah, Atreus does do that. He's very open about his sexual life and his exploits. He's not really ashamed of it the way some people can be. But yeah, Ilias, I really designed him as this character that doesn't really get some social conventions. He doesn't understand really the idea of owning something as property. He doesn't really understand that concept, which is why he doesn't actually own a lot of things himself, and he doesn't really understand how money works at all, which is why he has some of the other crew members who actually look after his budget for him, so that he doesn't spend all of his money on something like cheese or on like girly clothes or something. And it's like that once kid. And he dates the counselor, that makes it the best. Yeah. Like, Ilias, yes, Daphne, what do you want? No, I can't help you. You're all the way over there. And I don't even know what you're staring at. You were kind of way up on the counter. Looking into space like there's ghosts or something. Anyway. Yeah, Ilias, I really wanted to design him as a character that was, like, high-functioning autistic, because I know a few people who are. I have a couple of friends who are on the spectrum, and you would like, you would not really recognize that they are, except for the fact that they told me. And they have some little things that they do that seem inappropriate until you remember, oh, right, they're autistic. This is just how they are. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's like, oh, it's like an oh moment where you're like, oh, right. So with Ilias, I wanted him to be kind of high, at least kind of high functioning, autistic, where he seems normal pretty much all of the time, except for these occasions where it's very obvious he does not understand certain like concepts of society, and one of them is money. He does not understand how money works at all. He doesn't understand the economy or paying taxes or anything, which is why the crew does that for him so that he doesn't have to be stressed out about it. And he just also doesn't understand the idea of owning something. He doesn't get that thing that he just picked off the sidewalk is somebody else's and not his. He doesn't understand that is a thing. So when he goes through the vents, finding places to sleep that he feels safe in, he doesn't really understand the concept of that might not be acceptable to some people. You know, some random person sleeping in the vents above them. He thinks it's totally fine and doesn't understand why they're upset. But, you know, to us, that's a pretty reasonable thing. You don't want someone you don't know sleeping in the vents above your house or your apartment or something. But Ilias doesn't understand that. He thinks it's totally cool. Because that's what makes him feel safe. You know, and he only really apologizes when something goes wrong. Because he feels like he should apologize. Because that's what the crew's taught him. You know, if someone is upset, apologize, and it'll help make things better. So, you know, that's less him understanding why people are upset and more just this training that the crew has kind of instilled in him, and, you know, this idea of, you know, you can do this, like, just here are some things that you should try and do. My cat is the same. When she wants out of the room, she sits by the door and meows. And he's standing, came back via the vents, even though he's up at the door. Yeah, he gets very nervous about being out in the open. And a part of that is both his past trauma and also just a part of who he is. His brain goes, no, it's open. That means danger. That means I could get caught, so I need to not do that. While also not understanding that that's kind of creepy. So, you know, that's just how Ilias is. He also has real problems with impulse and impulse control. He can't always, like, actively, you know, react to that voice that everyone has in their head that goes, I should not do this thing. I feel like it would be kind of bad if I did this thing. Instead, he's just like, I wonder what would happen if I did this, and then he does that. Why? Because he wanted to see what would happen, and there's no voice in his head that is like, no, that would be bad. Like, legit, there's nothing there to tell him that, so he just actively does it whenever he feels like. And the only way to get him to not do that is to distract him. And I really like Ilias for that. I like Ilias for a lot of reasons. He's just a lot of fun to write, and not just because I made him out to be a little bit of the comedic relief. He is one of my lighter characters just because, in general, he's very happy. Except for when he's not, and then he's like the heaviest character I have. Like, emotionally. I think my only, like, mentally different character's Clavia is with his dissociative identity disorder. Yeah. I have a couple characters who have PTSD.
It's 12:30.
Yes, thank you, computer. Who have mild PTSD. And it surfaces in different ways. Dezora's comes out in her high-functioning alcoholism, where she drinks a lot, like, just way more than anyone should. And but she functions fairly well because her biotic amp burns through it so fast that it's hard for her to get drunk, and then it's hard for her to stay drunk. So she can drink and drink and drink and not feel the effects and think she's totally fine. You know, when really it is having a negative effect on her. And she's also super paranoid, this like act that she puts on of being totally in control. When that breaks, she really freaks out because she doesn't know how to handle it. She's very much somebody who has been hurt and betrayed, so her trust issues are like extreme. Like she does not trust anyone that she has not researched 100% into, whose motivations she just does not. If she doesn't understand your motivations, she does not trust you for a very long time. It takes a really long time to work her trust up. You have Dizole, who doesn't really have PTSD, but has kind of this thing where Renius has that and is like way overboard because he doesn't treat it. He just typically grumpy old Turian. Yeah. And Atreus has it to a mild extent because he was a prisoner of war. He's just much better at handling it because he had a much better support network after a lot of those issues. So he's a lot better at handling his own hang-ups, but every now and then he has kind of these moments where he can't really process all the emotions he's feeling, and so he kind of just like backs off and is very quiet and goes off on his own. Then you have Phinia, who, you know, she is kind of textbook. She doesn't really function out in the field very well anymore, unless she's with her wife, because she was, you know, captured by this assassin and he tortured her, and, you know, it highly affected her, so she doesn't function very well, and it comes off as being shy when really she's not shy. She's just afraid of people, particularly humans. So I think all of my crew have some kind of mental health issue going on, but I feel like that is less because of their characters and more just because of the fact that I feel like everyone has, you know, mental health is as important as your physical health, and it impacts your physical health, and it's impacted by your physical health. And I feel like a lot of people take for granted the fact that pretty much everyone has some kind of mental health issue that they should probably be working on. It's just for some people, you know, they don't recognize it, or it's something like narcissism where, you know, even if you can recognize that you are a narcissist, which is very difficult, narcissists tend to not recognize that they are narcissists, then, you know, they feel like there's nothing wrong with that, and they don't seek help because they don't think they need help. They think they're perfectly fine the way they are. But I feel like, and mental health is difficult for a lot of people to talk about because we like to think of our mental stability as something that is just finite. It's always there, but things like that can change, and it's mutable, and it's hard to grasp onto. There's no real definitive cure. You know, it's different for everyone in a way that some health issues aren't. So I think it's very difficult for people to deal with or talk about. But I always feel like, you know, that's something that everyone has. So I try to really think about that when I'm creating characters. Anyway, so back to the character that I'm drawing here. So this is Prince Crest. And we are done with his line art. Yay! Look at that. He looks so nice. So if we delete that, now we just have the nice, pretty and clean line art to work with. So yay, that looks good. I just want to make that a bit stronger. There we go. This is a lot earlier than I normally do art streams. I normally do art streams later in the day, but I decided to try and do it a bit earlier today. Just because I felt like it. That's really all it boils down to, is I felt like it. So that's why we're doing one now. And then I might take a break in half an hour and then start back up again at 3 o'clock. Who knows? Because for me, it's noontime. Kind of had his eye stabbed out. He killed him in the second time. His main arm for his sniper rifles ripped off. Oh, yeah. That would create some issues. Anyway, so Prince Crest is from this really old project of mine that I did way back in community college, back before I graduated and got my BA. Who is kind of the central figure of this fantasy story I wrote about a shepherd girl who finds the genie of the lamp, who's the king of all genies, and who's bound to serve her for life. You know, that kind of thing. And she decides to make this wish to be a prince. And her argument for being a prince and not a knight is, like, princes don't have to follow orders. You know, they don't have anyone that they need to bow to except for the king and queen. Or normally their parents, and they can normally still get away with stuff. And they're normally the ones out doing fun, adventurous stuff in fairy tales. So she makes this wish to be a prince and becomes a he. So it also is kind of a trans story. Although obviously in real life, you can't just simply wish yourself to be a different gender. If you could, I would be making a wish almost every day to be a different gender, because that's how my own gender identity works. Being bi-gender is very confusing. One day you're a guy and you're like, yeah, this feels great. And then the next day you're a girl and you're like, oh, okay, that's weird. And then the next day you might still be a girl, but the next day you might be a guy. And then it might switch back and forth even in that same day. So, like, being bi-gender is really freaking weird. And if I could, I would do it, like, all the time. Anyway, so that's not how it works in reality, but kind of a trans story just because the shepherd girl made the wish to be a prince. And it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of interesting characters I wrote for it. Like, there was this witch who was really a good guy and had this princess just basically come in and take over her tower and demand to be kept prisoner there. And she's just like, but this is where I research magic and do my spells. And she goes, well, yeah, but now you're keeping me here because I need a prince to rescue me. And this is perfect. And the witch is just like, but I don't want to do that. And two major things I need when designing new characters: a name and, like, a face claim. Or at least a design on how the character would look. Otherwise, I will forever be stuck. I understand how that is. I don't normally need a face claim because when I'm creating characters, I kind of always have this, like, idea of how I want them to look in my head. So I don't always use a face claim for that reason, especially because some of my characters, there's no way I can have a face claim because that sort of person, like, just doesn't exist in reality. Like, Ilias, in his, in the version that I'm considering canon now, because it's the version that is my webcomic, he's this half Asian character. So he's half Japanese and basically half alien, although he looks, you know, half white. And, you know, there's just no real, like, I've looked and I can't really find a face claim that works for him. You know, it's very difficult because he has green eyes and auburn hair, but his eyes are kind of slanted, but they're also huge in his face. So it's just hard to find the right fit. And the other example I would use is like I use Hugh Jackman for Atreus, but like Atreus in the canon like webcomic verse that I've created, his face is not pointed enough because Atreus' face is super pointed. Like, he's still ruggedly handsome, but it's like these super pointed features because he's an alien. So it's like, I can't really find anyone that fits that description. Like, the only one that would maybe kind of fit is James Marsters, and even then, that's, like, not rugged enough. That's, like, James Marsters is a little not rugged enough for Atreus. He's a little too aristocratic in his looks. So, I don't know, it's just difficult. So I normally just, like, have an idea of how I want them to look, and then just use that. And it's the same for characters, no matter how long ago I created them. So, for instance, Crest here. I don't really have a face claim for Crest that would work. I wouldn't work because I'm not that thin. And I've always thought of Crest as this, like, super thin character. So kind of more like how I was when I was little, because I used to be super skinny. Like, not anorexic skinny, but, like, skinny enough I could slide and hide in very tiny places, and my mom used to get really mad at me for it. It was great. I had a great time. So, like, but yeah, and I'm not skinny anymore, so that wouldn't work. Anyway, so that's line art. Came out very well, so we're going to go ahead and file, save. So it'll still be a transparent PNG. And then, real quick, I'm going to put you guys back on this screen so that I can set up Manga Studio, because that's where we're going to start the coloring process. Open. Yep. Okay, and so now I'm gonna create a background color so that I can see what the hell I'm doing. Purplish gray is good because I'm not gonna use those colors. And we're gonna lock that layer, and then now we're gonna go back to OBS and haha. There we go. All right. Getting better at this. All right. Yes? Yes. Okay. Okay, so now that we got that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my color palettes. Image. Those are poses. Reference, color palettes. Yeah, okay, let's do skin first. This is my skin color palette, which I found online. A lot of these are actually from, like, Tumblr draw memes, which are actually a ton of fun. I know the feeling most of the time I look for voice claims, but I feel like, for example, Claudia's face claim just fits him well. He is a Turian, so yeah. Anyway, so I really like this color palette. A lot of the color palettes that I use or have found are from Tumblr, like drawing memes, I guess. I was 11, right? Yeah, okay. And they're very helpful, especially since I have a hard time, for some reason, just like picking colors that that come out well or just go together well. So that's why I tend to use these color palettes. It's basically just like a guide to help me be better. And I mean, eventually I will probably stop using these and go back to trying to do it on my own, but that will be after basically teaching myself, no, that is a bad color combination, stop doing that. Which is just what this is here to help me stop doing. So I'm picking 2 color palettes because I want to have one for the freckles I'm gonna do. Because like many redheads, Crest has freckles. So it's a good thing to have a secondary skin color palette for when you do freckles that are several shades darker than your base color palette for the skin. And we have that now. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna label this layer as our skin palette layer. I don't care that was spelled incorrectly, because this is an art stream, not a spelling stream. Okay, and then now I'm gonna go ahead and pick out a color palette for his outfit and hair. So, but now that I have my Tyrian outline stuff, I can just color and design them very quickly. It makes, oh yeah. I did see that you had that. That is cool. I do like that you can do that so quickly. I tend to draw everything by hand, as you can clearly see. Okay, so let's do hair first. I feel like I designed Crest to be more orange, so we're gonna go with kind of more of an orangey hair palette, if I can find one that I find suitable in here. Yeah, that didn't work. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use this one here. Pick that, we're gonna zoom out, and I'm gonna make that one disappear, and then we're just gonna I used to suck at drawing. I mean, like, even just in community college, going back and looking at that, I'm like, wow, I was not okay. Like, that is some weird proportions, past self, what were you doing? You know, and then with practice, you just get better. So, you know, it just takes practice. You know, eventually you'll get the hang of it, or you'll get better. You know, practice makes perfect. And you know, nobody is ever going to be the best at anything. There's always going to be somebody that's better than you at something. And that includes in the art world. Like, some people are better at coloring than you are. Some people are better at lines. You know, it's just, you're never going to be the best at anything. So you just have to learn to accept that and be content in it. And I feel like I've gotten there, you know. Okay, so now we're going to pick some blue for Crest's cloak and some of his some of his other stuff, because a lot of his stuff is blue. Why? Because I like blue. Blue is one of my favorite colors. This is one part I don't like about Manga Studios. I can't color pick if I'm not on the right layer, which sucks. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure I have a base color, a shadow, and a highlight color, because that's really all I use anymore. Like, sometimes I might use a third or a fourth color, but when I'm doing something, but for the most part, I only really use 3 colors for any particular thing, just because I find it, well, I find it more useful, I guess. And just in the coloring technique that I've gotten down, that just is the one that seems to work the best. So that's the one I use. Okay, I feel like that might be too dark, but Is that one not dark enough? How do I want to do this? Because I don't want to go green, because green is too peasant-like. But I don't want to go purple, because purple's not in the original design. Although I could do purple. I haven't done purple in a really long time. Let's do purple. I like purple. Why the F not? It's my thing. I can do whatever color I want. We're gonna do some purple. Now, which shade purple? That is the question. Nah. You know, I like that one. We'll do that one. It's kind of a purpley blue. I like it. I still want to make a Batarian and call him like Gourmet. Batarians are cool. I like them. Obviously, because I have 3 Batarian OCs. All of whom are fantastic. And he speaks with a French accent. Oh man, that would be great. Okay, and now I'm gonna need some gold, because you're not a royal if you're not covered in gold or silver. Okay, this is my normal gold palette, so we're just gonna go ahead and stick with that. And I'm picking out my palettes now just so I don't have to constantly be pulling back up this particular huge thing, and I can just be like, oh, that's my color. If you get my drift. So just picking out colors now, and then that way I don't have to go looking for the specific color I was using later unless I severely fuck up. Which I don't want to do, but is something that can happen. You know what, I'm actually going to change the color of this base down here to green, just because I thought I would not be using purple or that, but I am, so we're gonna go ahead and make backer green instead, and then we're gonna lock that. Alright, hair, gold, cloak, vest. What else? Okay, I'm gonna need a brown palette, and, potentially something red-ish, maybe? Yeah, you know what? I like that. We'll do that. We'll go ahead and have some neutral tones. Sorry if this is just like a lot of zooming in and zooming out. This is just a part of my process. Didn't you draw Clavius as a pimp with a fedora? I did! I did do that once. I did that in a stream once. I actually probably still have that saved somewhere. I can't remember where anymore because I have been moving things around a lot lately. So I'd actually have to go and look for it. Because I recently reorganized both several of my like organizational folders and also my desktop folder, because I am a crazy person that sometimes randomly does that because the OCD part of my brain goes, it's not organized enough. And then I have a little mini freak out and then I have to reorganize everything. Because that's how my brain works, apparently. My brain is just like, this is not working, fix it. And then I have to fix it. Like, very quickly, I have to fix it. Yes, it does exist. It does exist somewhere in the expansive universe that is my filing system. My filing system, which is crazy. Just absolutely insane. Maybe that's not quite... Nah, that'll work for his eyes. I kind of feel like voice claims make an OC like alive, and you can like imagine their voice if not how they look. That's true. I do try and match voice claims as like close as possible as I can. It always cracks me up though that I picked Tom Felton for Dissolve's voice claim, because then all I can think about is like Saren singing, and I'm like, but it's not Saren, so because Dissolve's design is based off of Saren's early concept art, so it just amuses me greatly. Okay, I'm gonna pick a brown. And then I'm gonna pick another blue, and then I should be done, as far as palettes are concerned. Oh, Lord. Funniest part is that based off of where my dog is barking, I can tell whether or not he's sitting on the glider, which he should not be doing, but I can tell that that is totally what he's doing. Oh, oops, I didn't mean to do that. That was the wrong color. That's the right color. My bad.
It's 13 hours.
Yes, thank you, computer. My clock is set to military time because, or a 24-hour clock, because, I don't know, I just feel like that makes way more sense. I just love that Carnash has like this Scottish accent and Clavius has like a thick Norwegian accent. That is pretty good. I do appreciate that, like, together both Clavius and Atreus are pretty hard to understand. Like, I feel like together they're just like a pair of mushmouths. Because Atris is kind of like a combination between a Southern accent and a Scottish accent, because he picked up a lot of speaking, like a lot of intonations when he was 15 during the First Contact War. So he does actually have like a slight Scottish drawl to when he talks, but the majority of it is like this weird Southern drawl. So it's a combination of those two, which just generally makes him very hard to understand. And yet he talks so well. They just talk with each other and everyone around is like, what? Right? Okay, I think I have my color palette down. So, oh no, I need a white. Okay. So we'll pick a white. And then we'll be done. Oh, Lord, that dog. You know what? I like that one better, so I'm going to use that one. And that is the one I used. Okay. There we go. Got my color palettes down. Alright, so now that I have my color palettes, which we're going to call this one air. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and start coloring. And we're going to lock these layers so I can only make them invisible with color pick. I can't change them in any way or draw on them in any way, which is good. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start. And I'm going to do the cloak first just because it is the biggest piece of cloak, biggest item on the drawing. So that's what we're going to start with. And we start off by putting down a flat color. That is going to be our base color. And you know what? Might as well. Nah. Okay, and then we're gonna go in and clean up the edges. Oy. Rex, you had to do this. Okay. Are you better, Rex? Now that you barked at everything and sundry. All and sundry, whatever. Now that you barked at everyone. Oh good, he didn't come over and drip on me. That's good. Rex has this horrible habit of like trying to come over and get pets right after he's had a lot of water and is dribbling everywhere because he can't keep water in his mouth for some reason. I love my puppy, but he has such a rough time keeping water in his mouth for some weird reason. He's not like my first dog or the dog we had right before him, who they drank water and it wouldn't really go anywhere afterward. They would just drink a bunch of water and be fine. And there wouldn't be this like drool and slobber that goes everywhere. He's a good boy though, I love him. He's a very good German Shepherd mix, my Rex. And yes, his name is Mass Effect joke. And Harl and Renius are just plain British voices. Yeah. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I do find it funny though that the actor who I gave to Dizal is mainly British sounding, but or at least that's how he is in the show he's most popular in, Lucifer, whereas Zora's is not, and Zora is who he was cloned from. So it's just kind of funny to me. I'm like, Dizal, you don't match your clone, or you don't match the original very well, do you? I'm just kind of laughing about it. I do like Tom Felton though, and I really like Lucifer as a show, just because, like, it's kind of a different take on the devil. Like, not really, really a different take, but enough. Plus, I like that Lucifer is bi. Like, just straight up is totally fine being bi and talks about it all the time and is, like, canonically bi in the show. And I'm like, yes, I'm here for this. I'm so here for this. Everything is awesome. And, like, and it's not played off as a joke. It's, like, just, yeah, the devil is bi. And I'm like, yay. And I should probably, like, think about how, like, oh, wait, it's the devil, so that might be bad, but also at the same point in time, I'm like, but the devil is a good guy in this show, so I'm confused. And he's not the only one either, so I don't know, I like that. I like that, there's, like, the main character of a show is not straight for once, and he's a guy, and I'm like, yes! I like this. Which isn't to say that's the only show where that's represented. It's not, and it's not even, like, represented all that well, because he's only attracted to this chick, but, and they only really show him getting together with chicks. I mean, they have shown him getting together with a few guys, but it's, like, way less in the number of girls. So I'm like, meh. But, you know, I will take any kind of representation I can get at this point. There is another show, I think it's online, that, I think is called I don't know, I just heard about it today and I haven't watched it, but it's supposed to be about this, black gay guy in, not gay, bi guy in New York. And and how he's kind of a hopeless romantic and trying to find love, and he's played by an actual guy. So I think it's a great show. I'm looking forward to checking it out when I get the chance. It looks interesting. Rennie is having a voice that nobody would understand, would be like horrible for the Black Watch. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if they're the leader, they should be understood. I feel like there's a lot of good shows out these days that I don't know, don't get as much traction as others. And then there's other shows that are out that I'm like, wow, those are still on the air. Like Grey's Anatomy. I had one of my friends going, oh, hey, Grey's, I didn't really like the last episode of Grey's Anatomy. And I'm just like, that show is still on? How is that still on? Like, how is that not off the air yet? This is like when General Hospital was a thing, and I just wanted it to die and go away. What is with hospital dramas? Like, I don't understand the appeal. That might be because I have, like, a severe and crippling hemophobia, although I mostly have it under control now, but still, like, it's not ever gonna go away. It's just there. It's just manageable now, but at the same point in time, I'm like, it's still there. Like, I can't watch scenes where they're cutting people open and there's a crap ton of blood. It, like, makes me want to pass out. And I'm like, I do not understand the appeal of hospital drama shows. I'm like, there cannot be that much drama in an actual hospital. And I'm like, and why do these hospitals always look so clean and nice looking? I've never gone into a hospital that looks as nice as the ones that are on TV. Like, seriously, none of the only hospital that I'm like, yes, that seems like it would exist in reality was Scrubs. Like, all the other hospitals, I'm like, there's no way there's a hospital that actively looks like that. I have not ever seen one that actively looks like that. I'm like, where are the hospitals where all this, like, super new high-tech medical gear? Because I have not seen them. Like, at least all the hospitals in my area, anyway. I'm just like, mine don't look like that. They look kind of like they're falling apart at the seams. And maybe that's just my anxiety talking, though. I don't know, but, like, even the nice hospitals near us, I'm like, don't look like the hospitals that they have on TV. Like, the hospitals they have on TV look so nice, and you're just like, but that is not what they look like in reality, though. Well, no emergency room for you. Yeah, I've actually gone to the emergency room once. I dropped a huge, old, fat back flat screen TV on my leg, like the kind that used to weigh like over 200 pounds. It was super old, and it was having some issues, and I wanted to see if maybe it was because it wasn't plugged in properly, or some of the wires got loose or something, like one of the cats got back there and they messed with it. So I had to basically pull it out of the built-in entertainment, like, I don't know, thing that's there. And I pulled it out and turned it and was looking, and there didn't seem to be a problem. So I was turning it back to push it back in, and it shifted, and it was so heavy that I couldn't catch it properly and to push it back in place. So it fell, and it fell on my leg. And I had the biggest bruise for like a month because it fell on an angle and bruised my femur. Like, it bruised the bone. That's how heavy and like bad this was. And I was in so much pain. and I was convinced my leg was broken. That's how much pain I was in. Like, I've never had, well, I've broken, like, fingers before, but, I mean, that's, like, nothing. That's happened multiple occasions. I used to slam my hands on the door a lot as a kid. Anyway, so, like, I was, like, convinced that my leg was broken because it hurt so bad. Like, the only time I could really, like, compare it to is when I dislocated my arm. Like, that's how painful this was. So I was convinced that, you know, my leg was broken. And I was like, I really need to go to the emergency room, but I can't call an ambulance because they're way too expensive and they're not covered by my health insurance. So I was like, yeah, I can't take an ambulance. And I'm also in my pajamas without a bra, kind of gross looking. So I need to get dressed. So I called my best friend at the time and I was like, you need to take me to the hospital. Like, you need to take me to the emergency room right now. And she's like, why can't you just call an ambulance? I'm like, they're too fucking expensive. Get your ass over here and help me get dressed. So I had her come over and she's like, are you sure you want to put clothes on? Why don't we just go? And I'm like, no, I need to put actual clothes on. And then we can go. So they get me, so I get dressed. It's like one of the most painful things I've ever had to do. And then we get to the emergency room and I fill out the paperwork. They give me like, why are you here? Da 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 da. And like reason for visit. And basically I'm like, crap, I'm gonna have to put this and everyone's gonna laugh. And I put, dropped a TV on my leg. And of course, like I can tell when the staff starts reading my report because literally I can hear them start laughing. Like there was just this collective, oh my God, you gotta look at this. And then they were just laughing. Like I'm pretty sure they all thought I was some kind of hypochondriac that came in after dropping like some small, because this was after like the small thin flat screens came out that only weighed like 15 pounds. And I was fairly certain that's what they thought had fallen on my leg until I told them, no. It's one of the old, hey Valen, I'm telling the story about the time I went to the emergency room. Because I dropped a huge fat TV on my leg. One of the like super old, like super heavy flat screen TVs, you know, the ones that had like the super huge back to them, which I just got that recycled, sort of. I was very proud of myself. Weighed like over 200 pounds. I hated that thing. Anyway, so I accidentally like dropped it on my leg and I had to go to the emergency room and the emergency room workers were kind of laughing at me because I wrote dropped a TV on my leg on the emergency room report that I had to file because I'm sitting in the emergency room waiting for them to see me like, this is what happened. I dropped a TV on my leg. And I can hear them laughing in the background because I'm sure they thought it was one of the new flat screen TVs that only weigh like 15 pounds or something. And so they're laughing thinking I'm over exaggerating. And then I'm like, no, you don't understand. This was one of the old ones. I am in a lot of pain. And I was so convinced I'd broken my femur because that's the bone it had fallen on. I was like, and this was after I'd taken my figure drawing class where I learned a lot about anatomy. So I was like, that's my femur. I know which one my femur is. I'm fairly certain I broke it because it hurts so much. Like this was more pain than I've ever felt in my entire life. Please just give me an x-ray. Like, I know I broke my leg. And I didn't break my leg. I just bruised the bone, which still bad. I was on painkillers for like a week and I had this massive bruise that lasted like over a month. And Rex! And my whole family was laughing about it and still laugh about it to this day. It's now funny, finally, for me to laugh about it too. Yeah, I did explain that it was actually bigger than I was. And then the doctors were like, oh. Like, they still thought it was funny, but it was less funny after they learned, oh, right, it's actually huge. And I'm fairly certain I was still probably the thing that, like, made their day, because everyone else was probably in there for things like heart attacks or something, and here's this girl who dropped a freaking huge TV on her leg. Like, I'm fairly certain I would laugh about that too. I laugh about it now. Rex! Rex, just go outside. Stop barking. Why are you being such a piddle? Go! Christ. Yeah. So, like, and it was so funny because my mom left her phone at home that day, so I couldn't get in contact with her to tell her, hey, I went to the emergency room and I'm on some heavy painkillers. I can't cook dinner tonight. Like, I couldn't reach her to tell her because she'd left her phone at home. And I'm trying to call her like, yo, the health insurance is gonna get billed because I went to the emergency room. And it was so funny because by the time we left the hospital, the painkillers had already kicked in because they gave me Norco, which is some heavy-duty narcotics. So I was like really out of it and stoned out of my mind. And we're driving back and I'm like not falling asleep. I'm just like surprisingly active and chatty, but it's weird, like I'm drunk. And my friend is just laughing the entire time about how I sounded like a kindergartner who's like gotten outside for the first time ever. So, like, I kept talking about how amazing things were and how nice it was that they came and got me and how much I loved them. Like, that's what it was when I was on painkillers, was, I love you, thank you so much, you're such a nice friend. No, you don't understand how much this means to me. I was crying for 2 hours, but nobody came. Like, that's what I was like on Norco. So I get home and my friend drops me off and has to go to work, and I'm sleeping off the painkillers and, you know, the pain of dropping a huge TV on my leg. And I can't move the TV because it's 200 pounds and I got an injured leg, so there's nothing I can really do about it. I've been trying to call my mom all day with no success. Like, I can't even get her through the school. So, which is where she works. So finally she comes home. And my room is right next to the garage, so I can hear when the garage door opens when she pulls in with her car. So she comes in, and the very first thing that happens is I come out and I go, I went to the emergency room, dropped TV, I'm like, so cool, I'm just gonna go back to sleep. Like, with that literal amount of slurry, it was literally just me flashing, because I told my friend, no, you can't take off my emergency room bracelet. My mom won't believe me. So she left the emergency room bracelet on because I was so adamant about it. Like, no, you can't take that off. And my mom walks in and I'm just like, hey, flashing the bracelet like I went to the club. And my mom was like, what? I was like, I tried to call you, but you left your phone at home. And my roommate who lived there at the time was not there, or my friend who was renting out the room I now live in was not there at the time. I thought she was, because she was so quiet it was hard to tell. And basically I was screaming for 2 hours thinking that she was there and just had her headphones in or something. She was not there. So I was screaming for 2 hours for nothing. But like it was like a climb and like a walk over to the phone, and I didn't want to get up because I was in a lot of pain. So it was an interesting day, and that's how I went to the emergency room for the first time. And it was funny because I was probably in so much pain I didn't realize it if there was even people like bleeding, but I don't feel like there was a lot of people bleeding in the emergency room. I feel like it was mostly just like people sitting there waiting. It was pretty interesting. So like I didn't have my fear of blood triggered anyway. that I remember. All I can really remember is the people laughing and me being in pain. Like, that's what I remember. Hey, emergency room laughing, right? Like, I went to the club, and the club was the emergency room. Yo. Oh. I have, like, all of my, like, serious injury stories are actually fairly hilarious. Now. They're hilarious now. They were not hilarious at the time, but they are hilarious now. Like, the time, like, the only other, like, the other most, like, painful experience in my life was when I dislocated my elbow. Or at least the joint of my elbow, because what happens when you dislocate a bone is you pop it out of the joint. It's not like when you break a bone, because when you break a bone, you know, the bone just, like, snaps in half. But when, or like, splinters. But when you dislocate a bone, you've actually popped it out of the joint. So it's just kind of, like, hanging there, connected only by the muscle. And yeah, it hurts. It hurts a lot. It's basically like, it's basically like you broke it, except sometimes it's worse because in order to heal a disjointed bone, they have to pop it back into the socket, and that can hurt like a bitch. Personal experience. It hurts like a bitch. I was 7, and my friends and I had been playing Limbo in the garage because it had been raining, and we weren't allowed to go play outside. And this was at the babysitter's house. We had to do what the babysitter wanted us to do. So we were inside, and we were like, why don't we tie these sheets together and play Limbo? Because one sheet just isn't long enough, but 2 sheets was too long, so we were like, why don't we go 2 people at a time? Because we're like 7, and that makes sense. So we're playing Limbo, and keep in mind, I have always been really tiny. Always. There's never been a time in my life where I was not the smallest person in the room. I mean, obviously I have since met people that are smaller than me, but growing up, I was always the smallest person. So I am tiny. Everyone else is huge. We're playing Limbo. Me and my best friend are going at the same time. And I fall down first, and I have my arms outstretched because I'm laughing, and that's what I do when I laugh. I sprawl. Yeah, kid logic. So I'm sprawling on the ground, laughing my butt off, and then my friend, you know, catches on the sheets and falls down too, and she falls right on top of me. And she's like twice my size at this point in our growth period. So she falls right on my arm, like right where the joint between my elbow and okay, let's see, that forearm and bicep. So right where my bicep and right on my elbow. So basically the one of the bones in my elbow popped out of joint, and I couldn't turn my arm in a specific way without having severe pain shoot up everything. Like, it was incredibly, like, I couldn't turn my arm over so my palm was facing up. I couldn't do that. It hurt way too much. It basically, like, the babysitter thought I had broken it. Although I could move it, so that didn't seem, you know, I was a kid. Kids break their bones. Anyway, so my mom comes to pick me up, and she immediately takes me to, I guess, the emergency room. I can't really remember. Again, I was in a lot of pain, and I just remember coming into some doctor's place, not the usual doctor, getting an x-ray, and the x-ray technician trying to turn my arm and me screaming my head off. And I've always been loud, but I used to be super high-pitched as a kid.
It's 13:30.
So it was like super loud and super high-pitched. So that area that really hurts. And so he's like, I can't do this. The kid is screaming. And he was afraid he was, like, seriously hurting me, so he didn't want to do it. My mom's like, fine, I'll do it. So she walks into the room and smacks my arm over in the way that they wanted it to position. And I screamed so loud that they heard me in the parking lot. Like, For real, they did. There were actually people who came in severely worried that some kid was being killed. Because I screamed so loud, because my mom had popped my bone back into place, and that hurt so much. Like, for real. Like, blinding pain. It only lasted for like a second though, because then then afterward, like, it doesn't hurt. It's like, it's just sore. It doesn't really hurt as much anymore. So they're like, no, she doesn't have to be in a cast, and like, here's a couple painkillers, just put her to bed, she'll be fine. And that was exactly what happened. I was fine. Ah, hell, the gardener's here. Dang it. Alright, I'm gonna have to call... Just have a picture of a hospital building, all quiet, and then you hear that scream and all the birds take off from the roof. Yeah, basically. Alright, guys. I'm gonna have to call the stream here because I have to let the dog inside, and he's gonna be barking his head off, and I don't want my mic to get blown out by the dog barking. So, this has been fun. I will be back probably in like an hour and a half. Thank you for joining me. This has been great. Okay. See you soon.